Though many elite universities have gone test optional, a high SAT score can still improve your chances of admission.
Mr. Greenberg! Mr. Greenberg!
What is it, student me?
Define good.
That's a great question, and it's one that I get a lot from my students. So if you're debating whether or not to submit your SAT scores, stick around, because in the next 3 to 5 minutes, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know to answer that question. For those of you who are new around here, I'm Nathan Greenberg, and I've been teaching SAT since before many of my viewers were even born. And when it comes to a good SAT score, it's subjective. Like a score of 1400 will place you in the top 95% of all test takers, but it's still well below average for admitted students at the most prestigious universities. So when determining whether or not to submit your score, the main question that you need to answer is whether or not your score will help or hurt you. And to do that, you can begin by looking up the average SAT score among admitted students at the schools you will be applying to. Now, if you do this, you're probably going to get a range. And for a school like Harvard University, that range is going to be somewhere between 1480 and 1580. What that means is that 50% of admitted students fall within that range, while 25% fall below and 25% fall above. Now, if your score is above that range, or even near the top of it, it means that it's going to help your chances of admission, so you should definitely submit it. And if your score is below that range, it's more likely to be a liability. So it's probably best not to submit.
What if I get a score that's like within that range but near the bottom?
I hear you, student me, and in that situation the question becomes a little bit more complicated. But let me give you 3 criteria that you can use to evaluate whether or not you should submit your score. The first question is, do you have better scores to submit? Let's imagine that you got a 5 on both the AP English Language and Composition and AP BC Calculus exams. In that case, there's no benefit to submitting a mediocre test score, because the universities that you're applying to will have already seen something far more impressive. Another factor to consider is your grades. Now, if you have a perfect GPA, there isn't much value in submitting a mediocre test score, because they've already seen that you're a fantastic student. And in fact, your mediocre test score may make them question that assumption. Conversely, if your GPA is on the lower side, then submitting even a mediocre test score could help, because it would reveal at least a basic level of competence. The final key factor to consider is how much you would benefit from the credibility of a standardized test score. And that depends largely on the credibility of your high school. Like if you go to homeschool, or a less than rigorous high school where almost everybody gets automatic A's, or even a high school that admissions committees are simply less likely to be familiar with, perhaps because it doesn't traditionally send a lot of students to the kind of universities that you're applying to. In those situations, submitting an SAT score could be great proof of your abilities, even if it's on the lower end of average. So if your situation is borderline and you're still not sure whether or not you should submit your SAT scores, keep those 3 criteria in mind as you reach your decision. I hope you found this video helpful. If you have, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and good luck.